Yes.
Okay.
How did you come to be a sporting manager?
Okay. I studied agriculture in the 70s at the West of Scotland Agricultural College, and I joined the estate here in Grantown in April 1975 as a deer stalker and gamekeeper. And as time went on, I was offered the job as sporting manager, I think in about 1993. And initially, I didn't know if I wanted to give up working out, on the outside, but circumstances sort of dictated that I should come into the office. And so I've been sporting manager since. So it was sort of progression through the ranks, if you like.
Okay. Are there many females sporting managers in Scotland?
Well, actually, there are very few sporting managers because it's got to be a really large estate to have a purely sporting department.
I see.
Therefore, there are few sporting managers and even fewer, I'm afraid, females, because usually a factor will run the sporting department and the farming department and the forestry, or land agents would run it on behalf of the owner. So unless the estate's very, very big, then it won't have a specific person in charge of all the sports. So I think the answer to that is probably there are none.
Okay.
No females.
Thank you. Whose responsibility is conservation for salmon? Is it governments, is it proprietors, or individual anglers?
Whose responsibility is it for conservation of salmon? Well, I would think that it's everyone's responsibility, right from the angler who actually catches the fish to the proprietor who sells the fishing and instructs the anglers on conservation policies such as catch as release and the time spent fishing. And of course, it's the government's overall duty to take an overview of the whole thing, to not only protect fishing and particularly salmon that use the sea as well as the freshwater. I think the government have got to take responsibility for the salmon once it enters the sea, and to a degree in the rivers.
Yes. Don't you think it's also a question of Europe?
Yes, absolutely, Europe. And I'm just trying to think if it would be even further than Europe. But certainly Europe, while they allow so much fishing in the open seas, from boats coming in from other countries into what might be described as UK waters or Danish waters or whatever, and with the sophisticated machinery they've got now, the electronics, they can target these shoals and they can see them, and with GPS they can come back when they're fishing to the same spot day after day. Once they find it, it used to be skill of the skippers. Now they can go back. On my boat, you can go back to the same spot, you can press a button and you can see where the fish are, what depth they are, and these guys have got much better equipment than that, so they can target these fishing. And of course, salmon are killed in the bycatch of mackerel fishing or herring or everything now. And there's no real, I think that they do monitor the catches, but I think probably there's still salmon being caught which are never registered with any country at all on the open seas.
So this is a real problem, really, the mixed stock fishing.
Mixed stock fishing is a real problem.
Okay. What steps are you taking here on this stretch of river, and what results are you hoping to achieve?
Well, we own the land. We're lucky enough to own the land on both sides of most of our fisheries. And as far as the header streams, we've been working with the Spey board to make sure there are no obstructions in the little header streams, and we're restocking those header streams. We're also making sure where trees have been planted too close to the side of the little burns, little streams, they've all been opened up again.
Okay.
So that the fish get a chance. So we're maximising the amount of spawning areas. Also, we take steps to make sure the water's in good quality. But also, working with a catch and release policy, we are somewhere about 84% of all of our salmon caught each year go back into the river. and about 83% of our sea trout. So as far as that's concerned, as long as our house is in order, then we shouldn't be criticised, because this under the Salmon Conservation Order of 2004,
Yes.
I think it is, the government could become involved if we were not seen to be looking after our own river, and that's why catch and release was, as a policy, was introduced by most of the states, guaranteeing, by putting every second fish back, guaranteeing that the release rate would be more than 50%.
Yes. Do you think all fish returned will survive?
Probably not. But, you know, if you speak to our gillies and all of our water here, and we've controlled 14 miles of this bay, there aren't very many fish found dead. There are a few, but, you know, we can recommend not to play them pretty hard, use good strong line, get them in and released. But I guess inevitably some will be released. But, you know, it's better than none being released.
Of course.
Sorry,
of course.
some of them will die.
That's
Some of
okay.
them will die.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Do you think an independent Scotland would be better placed to protect the salmon?
I've got no real view on that. You would imagine that they may, but you know, I don't really.
That's a tricky one.
Do you think
We
independent
don't.
Scotland would be better placed to protect the salmon?
Independent Scotland, yes. I'm asking this because it's quite an issue in Europe. They look upon Scotland and what happens there with the independence and so on.
I'm not sure. One would imagine that if they took a real note of what was happening and took a real note of the income it brings to Scotland, you would imagine that may happen, but I don't know if it would. That's a bit of a rubbish answer, Eliane.
Never mind. Let's leave it at that. Is the estate working together with organisations like Atlantic Salmon Trust or North Atlantic Salmon Fund?
We donate to the Atlantic Salmon Fund every year. And we donate fishing to be auctioned off on behalf of funds.
Great.
Apart from that, we don't really interact with them very much. Apart from providing some money for them, we don't really interact with them.
That's already a lot.
Every year we've been putting a lot into their auction for. It's funny enough. We were putting the last 2 years we were putting 5 days again, and it wasn't that popular. We put it down to 2 days, and it was taken straight away.
Amazing, huh? 5 days wasn't taken.
Wasn't taken.
Amazing, yes.
But 2 days up, so yeah. So we do that every year.
Okay, thank you. Are you fishing?
Oh gosh, I caught my first fish when I was 7, with my grandfather and my father with me, and I fish too much, my wife would say. My real passion is sea trout, but I've fished for sea trout in Argentina, I've fished for bonefish in Cuba, I was fishing for salmon in Norway last year and a few times before that. Yes, I adore fishing, both seawater fishing and river fishing and still water fishing. So yes, I do. I think I've got 40 fishing rods.
Great.
Far too many.
Great. What are the estate's views on women fishing, and do they encourage women to fish?
Yes, in the last 2 talks I've done, my wife's been standing beside the river with two salmon. We do encourage, we encourage anyone to fish, to be quite honest with you, and we see no difference in gender whatsoever. Whatsoever. Everyone has different abilities, and we're delighted to see partners of fishermen or women coming, and kids. We really try and encourage kids to come, but I'm afraid our clientele are getting older and older, and kids they're not only fishing as much, they're not shooting as much. They don't spend as much time in the outdoors as they should. So
what is the reason for that? Is it too expensive or what?
I think it's too easy for kids to sit at home with their iBoxes or iPads and their Xboxes and their PlayStations, and they don't get out. I don't know if it's not cool to be out in the countryside anymore. But same as shooting, but fishing is really suffering. It's not expensive. Kids can fish in the association here in Granton for a year for next to nothing, half the price of a one-day ski ticket. So they can get a really good deal. I need to check that if you're going to write that.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's just maybe it's not cool to fish.
Okay. Thank you so much for this interview, and we'll stop here. Thank you.